Welcome to the April Team Studio and TLCC webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, Paul Delanebbia and Howard Greenberg from TLCC, and today's speaker, Oliver Busse from We4IT, who will be presenting Transformations, Smart Application Migration to XPages. My name is Courtney. I'm the Inbound Marketing Specialist at Team Studio and your co-host today. Before we start talking about today's topic, I'll be taking a few moments to tell you who we are and what we do at Team Studio. I'll then be passing the controls to Howard Greenberg at TLCC so he can give an introduction, and then we'll dive into today's topic. To get us started, I'd like to cover a few administrative points. To protect your privacy, the attendee list is not public. All attendees are muted during this session, so you can participate by typing your questions to the speaker inside the questions section on your GoToWebinar window. We're doing Q&A at the end of this session, but you're welcome to ask your question at any point in the questions section, and we'll get to it once the formal presentation has concluded. Howard will show you a slide later on how to ask your questions. This session is being recorded, and the link will be sent to you in a follow-up email in a few days. So a little bit about Team Studio. We may have assisted you in the past with application development. We've been delivering innovative developer tools and productivity tools to the Notes and Domino community since 1996, where we specialized in source code control, version management, and source code management. And we moved into the mobile application arena in 2010 with our mobile application platform called Unplugged. We offer modernization services to web enable and mobilize IBM Notes and Domino applications as well. Unplugged gives you the ability to extend your IBM Notes applications out to mobile devices. It leverages the powerful technology of XPages and provides a native app experience for the user. And these apps have the capability to function when offline. Apps run very quickly, and development of apps is easier than ever. We're proud to have been the recipient of 2 IBM Collaboration Solutions Awards for Unplugged in 2013 and 2014. In January 2014 at Connect, IBM awarded Unplugged with the Best of Show and CTO Award. And at IBM Partner World in February 2014, IBM recognized the platform as a finalist for a Beacon Award. This product is available on the major mobile platforms, including BlackBerry, Android, and iOS. In addition to Unplugged as a platform, we provide off-the-shelf template apps like Team Studio Continuity for mobile business continuity, OneView for mobile approvals requests, and Customer View for mobile CRM. We'd be happy to arrange a demo of any of these products. Just contact us directly from our website or by phone. Late last year, as some of you may know, we launched X-Controls on OpenNTF. This project allows you to create XPages apps by dragging and dropping custom controls into your XPages. The apps you create will work on desktop browsers, mobile browsers, and Team Studio Unplugged. You can download the X-Controls template from OpenNTF along with a sampler application that shows you how to make use of the different controls to build an application. You can learn more at teamstudio.com/solutions/xfoundations. Here at Team Studio, we offer professional services that can provide you with the resources you need to meet project deadlines. Our services, like the Unplugged Developer Assistance Program, application upgrade analysis, and application usage auditing, can help you work more efficiently with fewer errors. Learn more about these by visiting our website. Lastly, for promotions and announcements, if you subscribe to Team Studio's blog before the end of May, you'll be automatically entered to win an iPhone 6. We publish posts about twice a week about topics such as XPages, Notes industry events, and new product releases. Just click on the banner on the Team Studio homepage. And lastly, if you'll be at DNUG, we'll be at DNUG this June in Dortmund, Germany. If you'll be there, come say hello. And now I'd like to pass the presentation to Howard so he can talk a little bit about TLCC, and then we'll dive into today's topic with Oliver. Over to you, Howard.
Thank you, Courtney, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Let me just get my slide up and on the screen here. Hopefully you're seeing that. We're starting to see it. My name is Howard Greenberg, as Courtney mentioned, and together with my partner, Paul De La Nebbia. Paul, if you want to say hello.
Good day, everyone, and thanks for attending and joining us today.
Thanks, Paul. So we will be your host today, and what our main function is at the end we'll take your questions that you're going to ask in the questions pane. I'll go into more details on that later, and then we'll ask Oliver the questions that pass our muster. So we do like if you can keep your questions towards regarding the topics that Oliver's going to talk about and not about some other topics, that would be great. But please do ask your questions as we go through. So a little bit about TLCC. We've been around since 1997 doing self-paced courses for Notes and Domino. We've been doing courses for admins, developers, and users. And we started doing XPages courses right as soon as the beta of XPages was available. So we've been doing them a while. Our most popular course is our free demo course, which I'll talk more about in a second. We also do mentoring where we can help your team or yourself take what you learn in our classes and apply it to your projects. So that a lot of our customers have found very useful to make that bridge those that gap between what you learn in our courses and the skills you need for your particular application, as well as helping with architecture and getting the architecture done right at the beginning, which a lot of beginners might have trouble with. We also do instructor-led classes of basically any topic. We can do them at your location, or we can do them online using GoToMeeting, similar to what we're doing today. And finally, both Paul and I get involved in helping our customers, our clients, with their development and consulting. Mostly we've been doing a lot of XPages work in terms of helping people develop their applications, especially as they maybe need to start adding some more complex things to their application, like incorporating Java or working with some of the nice user interfaces that are coming out today, like Bootstrap. So I mentioned we have a free course. I would assume most of the folks on the webinar are probably beyond the introduction to XPages, since Oliver is going to talk a little more advanced topics with Java. But if you are fairly new to XPages, definitely try out our free Introduction to XPages course. It will take you about 3 hours to go through and give you a pretty good feel for what XPages are and how they're put together. It is a hands-on course, so you will be actually creating some XPages applications as you go through. And the link is on the slide, and I'm also going to put that in the chat as well. Okay, upcoming webinars on May 14th. We have a couple IBMers, Pete Jansen and some of the IBMers from the XPages team are going to talk about what the future of application development is for Domino. So obviously a lot of that talk will be around XPages, but they're also going to talk about some other new upcoming technologies such as Bluemix and some other new things on the horizon, as well as do demonstrations of Bluemix and creating an XPage that runs in the Bluemix environment. If you're not familiar with Bluemix, that's IBM's cloud application development platform, where you can take an application, create it, and then provision it on the IBM cloud and roll it out to all your users just by clicking a few buttons. So that's something you definitely don't want to miss. It's not on the slide, but I'm pretty sure we have formal commitments from IBM in June. This will be a little different focus. It's going to be more on, first of all, IBM Verse. Scott Sauter is going to do a discussion on Verse and a demonstration. And then we're going to have some folks from the IBM Domino security team talking about some of the changes in the last 6 months for security. If you are a developer and had your head in the development sandbox and haven't lifted it out yet, you need to make sure your admin team is aware of some of the security changes that were put into Domino 9 as well as in 8.5, because there were some security holes, not really related just to Domino, but around SSL and the certificates and things like that. So you want to make sure you're up on all the latest news. So in June, we're going to have, as part of our June webinar, we're going to have Dave Kern talking about that. And then we're going to have Scott Bruchero, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, another IBMer, who's going to talk about just other things Domino related and about things coming out in point releases and stuff like that. So, definitely something you're going to want to drag your admins and your IT managers into the room to hear that talk in June. Okay, before we turn over to Oliver, I just want to make sure everyone is aware of the new extension library release that came out about 2 weeks ago. There's a couple nice little changes in here. First of all, there's a couple new data providers that you can use to provide the values for the value picker. If you haven't worked with the value picker control, you should check that out. It's a neat little control to let the users pick some values from some choices. There's also a way to do in-place editing. Where there's always has been a way, but you had to write a little bit of code, 1 or 2 lines. But now there's a simple action to make that just a little bit easier to do. What's really cool is that for using Bootstrap, there's 3 new controls, a carousel control, a dashboard control, and a navbar control. The carousel is, when you see the images on a website that kind of automatically scroll, that's what they have. It's a real easy drag and drop way to set that up. There's a dashboard control where you can set up a little image and it can have a little counter on it, show like the number of unread documents or things that need attention, how many to-dos there are, things like that. And there's a navbar control that if you don't want to use the application layout control, which is kind of complex, a little unwieldy, you can just use the navbar control to set up a set of menus at the top without having to go through all that trouble of setting up the application layout control. And the application layout control itself has a new configuration that's a little more focused on working responsively with Bootstrap. You can see these things demonstrated in a new demo database that's included in the extension library called todo.nsf. And then there's a couple of programming options in the data view control and the REST calendar service. So I'll put that link to download that in the chat in a second. But something you definitely want to check out, as well as, of course, they fix a number of bugs and things like that. So as far as asking questions, in the GoToWebinar interface, you have a window here. If you don't see the window, there should be a little strip with a little orange arrow pointing to the left. And so you click on that and it'll expand and open up your window. You can ask questions in the questions pane. Don't put your questions in the chat. We're not really monitoring that. Put it in the questions pane. And as I said, we're going to answer your questions verbally at the end of the webinar. So we won't type in an answer. We're going to ask Oliver the question at the end of the webinar. We'll allow some time at the end. Okay, so let me introduce Oliver Busse from We4IT. Oliver just recently joined We4IT, which is a very premier business partner in Germany. And Oliver is very active on the OpenNTF board, as well as helping out in different forums and things like that. And he's just recently spoke at the user group session in Germany, in Bremen, and then also recently at the Blog event in Belgium. So Oliver, let me turn over controls to you, and let me thank you in advance for presenting today.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. I just switch to my screen now. So I hope you can see and hear me.
Yes, again, both your screen and your voice are coming in loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Hello from me too to my little presentation today. Thank you for having me on this channel. My name is Oliver Busse. You pronounced it perfectly. And today's session is called Transformations, Smart Application Migration. And this session I did a few weeks ago at the Engage User Group conference in Belgium, and it's the purpose of this presentation is to show you just an idea, I think a smart idea of transforming a legacy Notes domino application to the XPages world by using new ways to access commonly and well-known patterns you will find in your legacy applications, such as profile documents, user profiles, application configuration documents and lists. And I want to show you a way and my way how to do it with very less effort. So what's the agenda for this session? First, a short introduction about me. Then I give you an overview of what we will do here in the next couple of minutes. And I have something to say before, that's the preamble part. And then I want to show you some code and what I did to migrate the database and user profiles, dealing with legacy profile documents, not standard documents, but profile documents in Notes applications with Java Beans. The next part shows how to populate value lists all over the application for forms and views. The next main part is gathering user information and environment information from the user, the logged-in user or the not logged-in user, or informations from the whole Domino environment. So, and last but not least, I played around a bit with extending the well-known full-text search functionalities you have in Domino apps to a so-called faceted search. And what this means, I will cover shortly, and I will show you a basic introduction to create a so-called faceted search. This is me. Howard did a great introduction slide before, but here are some additional information about me. As Howard said, I'm working for the V4IT group in Germany. I just joined them 3 weeks ago, and in my spare time, I'm also doing some programming and community work, especially for OpenNTF. And with OpenNTF, I'm a board member since last October. And also since last December, I was elected as an IBM champion that I'm very grateful for. My Twitter handle is zeromancer1972, and this is my blog, my homepage, where you can find other informations and articles, blog posts, all regarding Domino, mostly regarding Domino and XPages stuff. So have a look at it if you want. And feel free, always feel free to contact me if you have a question or something. So this is a slide I always put on to show and tell what's the purpose and what's it not. What is it? It's about transforming commonly used patterns in XPages, the XPages way. I will use a bit Java. Don't fear Java. If you do, there's no reason for it because it's not that hard to learn the basics and not too hard to implement it in your Notes applications. There is a hint for SSJS formulas. My personal goal is to avoid formulas in server-side JavaScript. There are better ways to accomplish the results instead of using SSJS formulas with pure Java. And as I said, this is just an idea to give you some best practice for transforming your legacy apps. So what's it not? It's not an XPages introduction. The prerequisites are you are using XPages and you're doing XPages development. You are not a Java beginner. So I won't tell you something about Java classes and structures, but I will use them. And of course, it's not a complete application migration strategy. It's just a small part of a migration strategy regarding those special documents and environment informations. So why I'm not using server-side JavaScript? or server-side JavaScript in an excessive way, because it's interpreted at runtime. It's so it's slow at execution time at runtime. So I mostly use Java for any background computations and accessing data and stuff, but not using server-side JavaScript. Of course, you have to use server-side JavaScript in some way. Of course, you have to call your Java methods and your objects, but that's all. The most coding happens in Java, in my case. It's not only interpreted at runtime, it's also compiled at runtime every time you call it. So the performance is very poor. Also, the debugging is not that comfortable as it is with pure Java applications if you use the right tools. So that's just a preamble for me. Now, let's start with the main part. What we will do now. I want to migrate a legacy database. So scenario is the following. In your application landscape, you are using databases, a lot of them. All have similar parts, similar patterns, and similar functionality regarding profile documents or user profiles. If you want to know what I mean, have a look at this. I'm pretty sure that you've seen this before. When you look in your existing apps on your server, your CRM system or discussion databases or something, you will find those little guys in various ways and various design elements, such as profile document accessing. In this case, it's a database profile, as the third parameter is left or is blank. So we are using a database profile. Also, you can use the profile documents for defining selection formulas or height-weighted formulas, or in this case, it's just a formula for the values that are selectable in that pick list. So, some words about the profile documents. They have advantages, of course. They gain quick access without using any view to look up a document, and they are cached. But they are cached in the Nodes client. They are designed formally for the usage in the Nodes client. So we are not using the Nodes client. We are using XPages, and that's a complete different situation and environment. So you can, of course, use profile documents in your XPages apps, but I strongly recommend you to transform them into standard documents. So what are the disadvantages of using profile docs? Maybe you know these scenarios. You cannot see them without using tools or at least an agent to open a document and using a form to access the data that is stored in the profile doc. So you can edit and create them only programmatically. We had replication issues with profile documents, a lot issues with them, and maybe you experienced that too. And also the caching. Most of the time, I searched for errors or problems in my existing legacy apps. It was caused by unwanted caching of, in this case, profile documents. So caching can be nice, but can also be a hassle at development time. There's also something that we miss in legacy applications. It's a very different part. It's not about profile document, but it's about other issues you have when developing for the pure Nodes client with LotusScript in this case. You may know the database script area in the database design. It's a nice feature of the Nodes application itself, but it's missing some key parts. It implements some thinking of it's a global area for declarations, but it isn't. It is not for global declarations. So it would be nice to store values or data or static strings or constants or something in this area, but you can't. With XPages, you can. So if you want to use global declarations, XPages, and in this case, Java and Managed Beans are your friends. So also, the next part, beside profiles, database script, or global declaration areas, there is another scenario you may know from your legacy apps. And this is regarding configuration documents. This is not about profile docs. These are default documents. You have those in your databases to define lists, value lists for elements such as combo boxes, pick lists, and dialog lists and stuff for the values that the user can select from. So you always have to use an add formula to access them. In this example, you can see there is a view used. It's called value lists, and I'm looking for a document with a key in the sorted first column of that view. It's called salutation for the field salutation, just to give the user a selection of salutations, Mr., Mrs., or something else. So imagine these kind of fields and these kind of DB lookup accesses in your forms, in your legacy apps. If you have many of them on a form, you may have experienced some performance issues. I saw forms that were built on the screen, so you can watch the building of the form elements. They are very slow. So we want to avoid this, because the usage of those formulas slow down your system. For that, we want to find a solution for all of the just shown. I want to transform the notes document idea, the idea of storing various values in the notes documents in items, to a lightweight object. The object I'm talking about is a so-called Java hash map. There are several reasons for me using a hash map instead of a notes document or instead of a notes object in general. The first is you cannot store a notes object, in this case the document, as a managed bean part. You cannot store it and cannot persist it in the memory or on the disk of the server. Managed beans can persist or can be persisted on the server. So it's not possible with notes objects. So I want to transform the things, the parts in this case of that notes document to something I can handle. The notes document is NSF based, and you have a view. You have to use a view to look it up. So it's also a performance question. The hash map is memory based. As I said, you can store it in your managed bean, and you can access it directly. And this is blazing fast. Of course, you have to start with some common design elements to accomplish that functionality in your beans. But those are not the classes itself. You need, of course, the design elements you maybe have already in your application. You need to access the documents via a view also, of course, for the first time. The key part is just you do this only once. I'll show you in a second. So the ingredients for the first transformation I want to show is creating a lookup view. It's just one lookup view. You can optionally create corresponding forms for later maintenance from the notes client. I've done that in my demo too. and the main part is to create the bean classes and to create them in your Faces config. Some words about my view I prepared. There is one view to look up everything. Database profile, user profile, or user profiles. You have to store, of course, more than one in your database, and value lists. I'm using static keys for the lookups, the DB profile key for the database profile, and the canonical username for user profile, and a free but unique key for any value list. So you can have as many as you want or as you need of value lists in your application. The next step is to create the beans. I'm using 3 classes until here. The database profile bean, the app config bean, and the user profile bean. Be careful what you name your bean classes and how you define them in the Faces config, because some of the names you might want to use are reserved, and they produce very strange behavior of your system. So keep them clean, but just keep them telling you what the classes will do. Such just append a word like bean in this case for the class name or for the definition. 2 words about the documents itself. The database profile is a central element of my application. If it's not there, if you are starting with an empty database with no data in it, and you will do if you want to use my demo, don't worry, the database profile bean creates a profile, in this case, the profile document if it doesn't exist. So no worries about it. The user profile bean creates a user profile if it's needed, which means that when the user first saves it. Okay, there are no user profiles when you are getting started. And last, before I show you some code, this is a definition of the Faces config, the minimal definition of the Faces config to define the bean classes. You can find the names of my classes I just mentioned. Whoops. The database profile bean, user profile bean, and the app config bean, and there are some shortcuts, some short names for it, and of course the definition of the so-called bean scope. Some words about the bean scope if you're not familiar with it, though I think TLCC and Team Studio did a webinar some month ago regarding managed beans, a great one, and you find also resources on the web, masses of resources for managed beans in XPages. So you want to get familiar with that syntax and you want to get familiar with the topic itself. But some words about the scopes I chose here. You can see I chose the application scope and I chose a session scope. I did not use the view or request scope. So what the hell is he talking about? Just a little digression into bean scopes and life cycles. What is a scope itself? A scope is the life cycle, the time, the period your bean will keep alive. We have 4 scopes in the XPages context. The first and the shortest is the so-called request scope. A bean defined as a request scope bean lives as long as you are creating a request, from the request against the server to the creation of the response. And then the object, the bean object, is dropped. It's dropped from the memory. The view scope, a view scope bean exists within a page until you change the page. Not reload, but changing, just opening another page. Even during Pater refreshes in your page, you can access methods and properties of your view scoped bean in this case. Session scope is as long as the user is logged in or not logged in. Even an anonymous user has a session scope where objects can reside, and it's per user. This is the main part and the important part. This is stored per user. So if you have to deal with a lot of users at the same time, there are as many objects in the memory as users are accessing your application. And the last part, the application scope. This is the one that lasts the longest time. After 30 minutes, it's dropped by default. You can switch that setting. You can change it to other values, to higher or lower values. I never did that, and then I never had to use it. But you can do it in the XSP properties of your application. The application scope is for every user, and that's the part I'm using here. This is what I want, because the database configuration should be equal to any user that is using my app, and also the value lists I want to use in my forms, in my XPages that represent forms. Also, no, it's not a difference between the users to access those data. So for this, I use the application scope. So, and this slide tells me, show some code and stop talking. So I will not stop talking. I just want to show you the application. This is my little app, my little Notes app. It has a Notes interface, not an XPages, Xpink interface. It's just a Notes interface, and this is the view I was talking about. I have actually 3 views in my applications, just to filter some elements here. But this is the view I'm using most of the time, just to show and maintain what settings in my applications are made. I have a database profile and I have value lists. I just kill the database profile just to prove that my application my database config bean will reinitialize this by default. This is the application in the browser. You can download it. I will tell you the URL where you can download it later, of course. The URL is also in my slides. So this is how the application looks. It consists of some XPages and some text and blah blah blah. And of course you can log in. It's all in the application. As you can see, I have some functionalities added when I'm a logged in user. So back to the views. This is a notes part for my demonstration, and of course the forms, the corresponding forms for my documents. But the main part is actually the Java classes. I just expanded the section for my Java in my NSF. There are several classes in this demo app, but don't worry about them. They are just for the design and the front end. Those are just for the front end. The one I want to show you are defined in that package called com-icsug. I did this application for my session at the ICSUG conference, so this is the reason why they are named in this way. So the first one is the database profile. It's Java, of course, it's Java, but don't worry, don't fear it. My bean classes that are application scoped are initialized when the first user accesses the database, in this case via the browser. The bean object is instantiated automatically, and it lives as long as my application runs and as long as the user accesses pages of the application. So far, so good. But what if I want to refresh some information? If you change information in the database profile, in the document, on the data layer, I want to reinitialize it. For that, you will find on every of my classes an initialized method, and it's called init. Here it is. As you can see, it's called in the default constructor. another digression into a bean code. Java Bean is a Java class that has a parameterless constructor. In this case, you can see it, no parameters at all. It has to have the parameterless constructor, and it has private fields here defined, a map and a string and something that you can extend, of course. And it has corresponding methods, getter and setter methods, to access those fields. I want to shortly introduce the initialized method, as it is a very simple one, of the database profile bean. The intention of it is to read the document or to create it, a central document to store simple informations. I have to say, if you want to use my demo, you have to use some plugins. As you see, this demo uses the Bootstrap design, and I'm using the Bootstrap for XPages plugin. I'm using the extension library. You don't have to use the latest one, though it is a great release, but you can also use the built-in extension library in Domino 9. But I'm using the OpenNTF Domino API. It's the Java API wrapped around the default Domino Java API, and it makes things so much easier. For example, accessing environment and documents and stuff. I just put the latest version on my environment here, so some of the methods that worked before are now marked as deprecated, such as this one. So don't worry about it. They won't be removed so soon, so just work with it. Okay, what I'm doing here, I want to access the profile document. As you can see, I'm using the static key here for the lookup in my view. The view is the profiles view, and I just changed some methods after another, and I want to access a document. If the document isn't there, it's just being created. Some fields are set and stuff. This is not interesting. We just create a new document when the bean is instantiated, when it's built, so to say. So by reloading or accessing my application, the bean is called and it builds a new document. It should build a new document. I just have to log out and log me in again, just for refreshing here. And I think I have to lose the scope a bit. So I reload it, and here we are. The document is recreated. It's just containing one interesting item here. Can show you the items. This is a form item, and this is the key. No other fields. The updated by, of course. So it's created by default when it's not there. This is my intention. So what I'm doing is I want to store every item value that I find in the database profile, no matter how many items there are and what they are called. You can extend it by your own needs. This is a generic way to access them. I'm looping through those items, and I'm building a map containing an array list. The array list is the list for the values. If you have multiple values in all your items, you want to get them. I am building the list, and I'm putting them into the value list, just defined here as the private field. It's also here defined as the field. And this is corresponding to what the slide said. I'm building a hash map containing a key. This is the name of the item. This is the key. And an array list with the values of this item. And when I'm done with all the items, I can access all the values later just by hitting the hash map and accessing the key, just like using the session scope or the view scope map. It's exactly the same, because the session scope and the view scope and the other maps are just beans. you always use beans. You may not want, you may not notice it, but these are beans also. Okay, I also created a get method to easily access a value list from my own hash map, and I can access also the whole list in my map. And yes, that's it. These other methods are just for demonstrations, for other demonstrations, not for this one. So what I'm doing now, I'm using my database. I open the database profile with a corresponding XPage I made. And this table just shows you what this profile contains. So there's a form field, a key field, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's a button that reinits the database profile. So I can show you that again. If I kill this, again, reload it, press the button, document is also there. So I want to edit this document. I created an XPage, another XPage to access the profile document with an editable form. And I just created an edit box here that will create a new item called app title. And I just want to change the value of that field. I'm reinitializing the hash map with all the items. And here there you can see there is another value in my map for the item app title, and it's containing the value I just saved in the page before. So when I'm reloading the page after reinitializing my hash map, because it's cached, because it's an application scoped map, when I reload the page or just pressing refresh in my web browser, you can see the title of this application in this case changes. This is just a simple and a stupid demo, but it shows how to access and how to use a database profile item, in this case a hash map value. So how to access one of the informations in my application scoped hash map? Very simple. The XPage uses a custom control, and this is a layout. And there you have the corresponding code for displaying the title in the layout control. I hope you can see it with that dark theme. If you're using a 1080p resolution, you should see it quite well. What I'm doing here is a simple XP text, and the value is computed, and it's just accessing the bean. I'm showing you that in another window. Okay. And what it does, it accesses the database profile bean, uses the built-in method get, and reads the first entry of the array list of values. In this case, I'm pretty sure that I'm returning a string, so I can use it directly for the value in my text, in my computed text. If there's a problem with accessing the database profile, there's no problem. I catch any problem and I just return another information. I'm just returning my application config bean. This is another bean I'll show you in a second. And there is a static field I can access which contains a static title. It's just returning the database title, the property from the nodes database. So in both cases, you have a title in the area at the top. One caveat with all of these bean methods accessing database document item values. If you have an item which does not contain any value, we are used, as LotusScript developers, we are used not to worry about it, because we can always use get item value or get item value something when you do it in Java. But if you do it in Java, you have to make sure that there is a value in your item, because the array list will in this case will have a size of 0. So accessing it with this method, get element of 0, the first one, will create an exception. For this, I just catched this exception and returned another value in this case. Could be a static value too. So keep that in mind. Empty fields, empty notes document fields will produce an empty value list with a size of 0. So should be okay, but as you can see, no exception is occurring. The reload just showed the default value here, so I can leave that alone. Demo. Save it, reinit, reload. Here we are. Okay. This is a database profile. It reads every item in the profile document. The next one is the user profile I want to show. If you are a logged in user, you should be allowed to tweak some settings for your personal needs, and yeah. So user profile is always a good idea. In my case, I'm just storing a nickname instead of my real username. You can see my username is displayed at the top when I'm logged in. When I'm not, it's just saying login. You get this control at the top, the Bootstrap top for free if you use this database. And what my user profile should store is a nickname. I'm using my nickname from my Twitter handle and save it. And I reload the page. In this case, I'm just hitting a refresh of my web browser. I'm not calling a reinitialized method or something, because you may remember my user profile bean is session scoped. You saw that on the slide. This is a Faces config. On the slide, it's better readable, but this is session scope. Session scope means that it's refreshed on demand. If it's changing, it's refreshed on demand, so the changed values are available on the fly. So you can see what happens if I erase the content. My application, my user profile bean will automatically return this value. I'll show you this class, of course. This is even simpler than the database profile one, but the principle is nearly the same. Just getting the document is somewhat different because I have to look up my profile from the view using my username. In this case, I'm computing it with the getEffectiveUsername method, and I can show you this also in the list. It is created here after saving it saving it the first time, and nothing is inside except the user nickname. I just deleted again. So this is the only field I'm using here, and the username is the lookup field. This is the key field I'm using for the lookup in this case. So particularly no difference between the database profile, just the handle to get this document is quite different. The methods are the same. The get method is also there to access any of the values in the hash map by giving the key. In this case, I could provide just nickname as a key. I did that, and I just have to hurry up a bit to display it in the layout. So I'll show you this in the layout, and it's computed. Could not find it yet here. You can look it up later, so no problem. It's just for displaying that menu item. Okay, I will close this. This is the user bean. It's session scoped. Keep that in mind. But also the same construction, the same structure. Here's the init method, and the init method is called by the constructor itself. You can call it from an external button, maybe on a page if you like to refresh it on the fly, but you don't have to because it's a session bean. Another neat thing is a so-called appconfig bean. The application config comes in handy when dealing with value lists in your application. Imagine you have a list of salutations, cities, customers, or departments you want to offer the user in a combo box or somewhere else, so the user can choose from. I just have 3 value lists here already, but I'm using other value lists I want to show. This is a page for demonstrating the value list. As you can see, I have 2 fields. These are select combos, select 2 combos, bootstrapped styled. I like these, but they don't contain any values that I can select from. So I should create a value list document for them. So I should use this. It is described here too. I should use a key for my value list. In this case, this salutation, to create value lists, a value list for this key, save it. Nothing happens. What's this? You may remember that this bean is also application scope, so I have to reload it. So I have to reinitialize it with that method you just saw twice. So I reload it. This is what this button does. And now the values are there. As easy as pie. Cities, I don't have cities yet, but I can compute them. And I reload the config, and here they are. It's the same way, just 2 implementations. So looking at my list here, I am having the city document and containing the values. You just have to make sure that the XPage creates a multi-value item in the document. Okay, very simple. How is it done? Switching to the code. Nearly the same construction. In this case, I'm doing a step further before accessing and building the hash maps. I am building several hash maps regarding the documents I find in my application. I'm running through the value lists view, collecting all the documents, looping through them, and I create an array list with just a string in this case. The array list contains the key of the value list document, and it will be stored in another map. In this case, a string map and an array list string. So what I'm doing here, I'm looping through the documents, I'm reading the values field, and I'm transferring it to an array list. This is using reflection. This is a method from the Domino, from the OpenNTF API. I just try to refactor the whole code without using the OpenNTF API. It was pain in the ass. So I strongly recommend you to have a look at the OpenNTF stuff because it makes things so much easier. In this case, it creates a new array list directly from the values that are in the notes item. It's great. So I'm storing in my map an array list of values from all the documents. So I get a hash map containing everything from my value document or value list document, assuming that there is only one value field in that configuration document, a key and one values field containing multiple values. This is the key part here. So there's a view I created here, and to access all of those documents also from the browser, I just have to recreate the salutation one as I just dropped it, reload it, and now you can see there are 2 combos filled, and there's the corresponding notes document for it. Okay. These are the main beans for document access. The rest of the beans I created in this demo does not access any notes document. The code is not that hard, it's not that complicated and complex, except that it's using some extra stuff, some plugins, as I said, the OpenNTF stuff. But you can, of course, refactor it and use it without the plugin. My app-config bean contains some other informations and some other methods, just for my pleasure. Here is the app title method to get a value for the application title that is displayed in the upper left corner here, and there is a hidden gem, an icon, an application icon. As you can see, if there's no configuration for an application icon, I am just returning the coffee icon. So if I create a document with that special key, I can just change the icon. It's not documented, but if you look at the code, you can just change the icon here by just creating that configuration. It's something like an Easter egg here. Yeah, and that's it. There are ways to get the array list of configurations directly as the documents are stored, or you can get them in the sorted way, the values that are defined in that configuration, excuse me. So if you have larger lists than in my little demo here, maybe the cities, you recognize I'm using Dresden, Bremen in that order, but Bremen is displayed first. So this value list comes from the method getSortedList. So the list of the return values is sorted by default. It's maybe pretty handy. Okay. Another key part of applications in general is gathering user and environment information. Of course, you can use add formulas in legacy apps, in Notes apps. In XPages, you can do also. I did this the manage bean way. Gathering user and environment information. What does it mean? For me, these four parts, or at least three of them, are important for my programming or for my functionality I want to offer the user. Of course, the various name variations of the user information. You have to store and read and display the user's name every time on almost every page, and you have to store it in every document when using readers and author fields and stuff. So you need name variations, the long and the short ones. Second is reading the access level from the ACL, from the access control list. So what is the user? Is it a reader? Is it an editor, or even more? You can compute it very easily. And this is most important, and this is most convenient, using and reading the ACL options. With ACL options, I mean those little guys on the right side, the checkboxes. So in this case, maybe if I give my anonymous, just for my demonstration purposes, the author right, but not the right to create documents. So this looks a bit stupid, but for the demonstration it will work. I'm not giving the not locked in user the create documents rights. So keep that in mind. So returning to my slide, last but not least, but not as important as the other three, is gathering information from the Notes ini. Just if you want to examine your Domino server or your client environment, if you run this application in the Notes client, you can also access the Notes ini and read system or custom variables from the Notes ini, just as you did 100 times with LotusScript. So I created an environment bean that covers all of the shown functionalities. It's called env, and it's view scope. There is a good reason for it that it is view scoped. Maybe you can change it to a lower level, maybe application or session scope. In this case, session scope would be the appropriate way. View scope, I chose the view scope just for my convenience during design time, because when testing the application and changing the access rights for my own user, for myself, without changing and switching the nodes ID, I want to see the effect on the fly directly, and not after amount of time. You may experience that too before. So I chose the view scope level. You can tweak this to the session scope if you like. A basic example without showing the designer. This is just too simple. The bean covers some name variations that can be used to compute, in this case, simple labels or text or even field values. These are just the three basic examples of giving the username, the common username, and the abbreviated one. The username gives you the whole canonical format of your username. Another implementation of my environment bean. This is a very neat thing. You have, I'm sure you have forms to create or edit or modify documents. You may have a button the user can delete the document with. In this case, I have a delete button, and it's called delete. And the delete button is displayed mostly, if you thought about it, when the document is in edit mode, is opened in edit mode. The delete button will not work if it's a new document, so you want to create the rendered property like this. Just examine the current document you are using, you have open in your browser, and check if it's a new node. If it's the case, the delete button must not be displayed. But in addition, I am using my environment bean, and I'm checking if I have the ACL option enabled to delete documents. That should be yeah, a great way to hide elements if the user isn't able to do the action that is behind the button in this case. So the delete button is only visible if the user can delete the document. So a step further, visibility of controls like this little button. You can control the visibility even in themes by using the managed beans you just created. The delete button was the one thing. Another thing my environment bean delivers is a Boolean return value if the user can create documents or cannot create documents. So what you see in this slide is just an extract from a theme resource. And if you are not into themes, I strongly recommend you to get a deep dive into using themes, and not just for loading common resources like CSS and JavaScript files. No, use them to control the look and feel and the functionality of your controls. If you're interested, just grab the Mastering XPages book. It's a great one, or search the web for using themes and working with themes. In this case, I'm defining the behavior, the rendered property of a special button, of a button of a type submit. I'll show you what a submit button is. Maybe you did not see it as I did long ago, but this is a button which automatically saves the attached data source, the data source that is attached to the XPage, or let's say to the container where the button resides in. It can also be a data source in the panel where the button resides in. but it automatically saves the data source. So you don't have to create code behind the button in the event handler. No, the button submit saves always if the user is allowed to. In this case, the button is rendered. I'm defining a property called rendered. It's a Boolean value. You know that it's a Boolean value from the daily work, but the value is controlled on the theme level, and it's computed by my own bean. And there's a method that says can the user create documents in general, and if he does not can create documents, the button is not rendered. It's not displayed. So with that being said, just a short look to the environment stuff. So this is a username variations demo, and this is a demonstration for accessing some nodes in the entries. In this case, the special one for update site databases, extensions for your Domino, or where is my Domino directory on the machine and stuff. Just very basic. I'm returning to the value lists page. There's a button. It's labeled with submit. And this is the button of type submit. I'm a logged in user, so I can create documents. I will log out now, and I will open the page again. There you can see the submit button and also the other one, the save button, is hidden. It's not rendered in this page. The simple reason for it is it uses my environment bean. So I have two buttons on my value list X page. This one is the save button, and the visibility is computed environment create documents. This is the method. I'll show you the class later. There's also a submit button, but its visibility is not computed. It's set to a static value of yes, display this damn button, but it's hidden, although it's set to display it. How does it work? It works via the theme, and I have the theme here, and the button is hidden via my environment bean using the control option in this theme. The name of that button comes from the button type. There is a button submit, a button cancel, and the normal button, the default button. If you place a button on a blank X page, it will default in the type button. Oh, stupid. And this button is called button command. So if you want to compute this property for a default button, you just have to change the name to button.command, and the other one is button.cancel. I don't want to deep dive into how to compute those so-called theme IDs. There are also many blog posts online available regarding theme IDs, and I can recommend you the u@nodes XPages wiki. Just type it in, u@nodes XPages wiki, and there is an article regarding theme IDs to define them here in your own theme. So it's a very neat way to compute your the look and feel of some elements. For elements deleting, creating or something by just accessing the corresponding methods in my environment bean. And here it is. My environment bean offers some methods to get those whole username variations. Of course, you can add another parts of the username here. You can extract something, the organization or the company or something. Just extend it and create a new method for it. I have some fields type integer for the ACL level. As you know, the ACL level is just a number, and the ACL options is also just a number, and it's a bitwise shifting number. You can compute it, and I just did that for two options of the ACL, for the create documents and the delete documents. And this is the way how to do it. It works out of the box. It works even in LotusScript, like I did this way. It's just reading the database ACL create docs. It's a constant, static in the Nodes database class, and the ACL options are defined here via the method query access privileges. This is a method to get the current value of all the options as a number. So this computation does a bitwise addition. It's not an it's an AND, and the result is either greater 0 or not. And if it's greater, then the checkbox is set. So if this computes to true, the checkbox for create documents is set, and also this here for delete documents. So you can extend it with for the other options if you like. And yeah, that's all what this bean does. The usage of the theme I showed you, and I showed you how to access the username variations. Just play around with it. Okay. The last part, I will hurry up a bit. Extending a full text search to a so-called faceted search. This is an extract for Wikipedia. What is a faceted search? Let's say, in own words, a faceted search filters informations via so-called meta informations, meta tags, with additional meta tags. So imagine you search your database for a string. With a string full text search, you get a result of n documents, and the faceted search filters the result additionally by examining some meta information that are not in the result, or not in the result in the documents. Of course, they have to reside in the documents, but they are not part of your search of your query string. So these are two ways to do a faceted search. It's also stolen from Wikipedia. I'm using the right-hand option. I'm using a collection that is there after a full text search, maybe after a full text search. It can also be the other way around. And I'm filtering additional options, so-called meta informations, to refine my search. If you are not familiar with faceted search, I'm pretty sure you used it before. I just grabbed some websites here, screenshotted some websites, just a joke. If you use Amazon or some other online stores, you are familiar with faceted search, though you don't know that it is behind that. It's also filtering meta information. If you search for a product in a category, or you search for a special product and this name is in different categories, you can filter it via a category or another property of the product. This is very handy. So if we are working with Domino, we have two steps in for getting a faceted search result. The two steps are shown here. You start with a full text search and then filtering with extra metadata, or the other way around. You filter with metadata, get a result, and search full text in that result afterwards. So both is possible, and my little bean tries to cover both variations. There's always room for improvement, but this is just a start. So I'm doing it via Manage Bean also. It's called Faceted Search Bean. It's session scoped, and it will fed up with two informations: the search term itself and the facets. I will show you that in a second. And the result is always the same. The result is a document collection, but not directly a document collection. It's a transformed document collection. Of course, the search in a database results in that document collection, but I'm transferring it to an array list consisting of so-called search result entries. just for the generic way to give you a generic way to adapt it to your own application. So where is my bean? Faceted search bean. It's a bit more code, but it's not that hard. I'm starting from the beginning. I'm always starting with the init method. The init method is called from the user front end. I'm examining my value list documents, because the value list document defines the source database where I'm searching in. So I'm doing the search. I'm giving the search term. I'm giving the search facets from controls on my XPage, and I'm doing the search in the way you already know. There's nothing special behind the full text search, and depending on the order of the given information, facets first or search term first, it will provide a document collection, and it will provide an array list containing my special search result entries. My search result entries are therefore the data display. So I'm using, I'll show you the configuration for it. I have a source DB on my server, it's my homepage, and I'm using the search term for the full text search. Of course, I have to define a search term here, and I pre-select my documents I want to search in. It's my blog posts, and the result text is just a formula that is executed at runtime just to display the data in the result list, the title of the document and the date it was created. So I have to relog in first, and now I can search. And this is the panel displaying all the documents, results 109, and I'm searching for maybe Bluemix, and I find Bluemix entries here. I also find some text here. It's not that many of the text. You can see the list here. If I reset my search, you can see there are a lot more text available. So the filtering for the combo box here, for the selection of text, is also depending on the result I already have. It was fast. XPages. Everything I posted about is about XPages. I will do it with Bluemix again. 4 entries, and you can see the list is not as long as it is when I'm seeing all documents. So this is one way. The other way is to pre-select some text here, and this is a bad example. I just have to just use work or work around. No, work around should be okay. There is a problem in the page refresh. That did not work out yet. So I will do workaround again. Click somewhere else, and then you can see the list is refreshed. So I get 12 results, and there is it's containing something like source control. And when I'm searching for source control, you can see the list of results is also shortened. So the whole result was 12, and if I search for another term, I get a combination of both. And so you can, with this control, in this case, you can refine it also by setting several texts here. So now the result is 14. These are not and combined text, these are or combined text, but you can change it if you like. You see there is a way to change the operator. In this case, it's an or. You can also set it to and to refine it by using more text in this field. So it's up to you. You can also have the user control if it should be an or an and computation. Okay, this is just a start. Just another way to transform functionality the Nodes user is used to have in the Nodes client and in the Nodes database, except for the problem that the faceted search is not as easy to recreate as it is in XPages with that bean. So the conclusion for the faceted search topic is just look out for alternatives and other stuff. Watch out the OpenNTF API, because the so-called GraphDB functions are added in the latest version, and the GraphDB function is another topic I can talk about a lot, or you better ask Nathan Freeman about it. He implemented and invented it for the use in Domino applications. It's a great functionality. Or watch out for other third-party GraphDB packages like Apache Solr. The main purpose of a GraphDB is to store relations and not documents. So to find your data blazing fast and with the relations and not with the data itself. So last but not least, I have some links here in my slides where you can download the demo application you just saw, and I recommend you to have a look and install the following plugins that are listed here to get this running. And now it's the time for me to answer your questions, and I will hand over to Howard now, and I thank you.
All right, thank you, Oliver. That was great. Kind of some new ideas of how to do things, as well as improve performance, which is actually some of the questions that we got from the folks were about. So just a reminder, if you want to ask a question, use the questions pane in the GoToWebinar panel. If you don't see that, there should be a little orange arrow that's pointed to the left. If you click on that, it will expand the interface, and you should see the questions panel listed. If you don't see it, go to the View menu and click on it and put a check mark next to the questions panel, and then it will appear. While Paul's queuing up a question, David Leedy said that today he's going to have a new Notes in 9, and he's going to have a demonstration of the responsive controls. So watch for that if you want to learn more about responsive controls, and I assume he's going to be doing that in Bootstrap. Paul, are you ready with the first question?
There's not a lot of questions, so a reminder to our attendees, if you have questions, please throw them in now. We have a performance question from Samer. What performance would I gain if I migrate my standard Domino applications to XPages and JavaBeans? What if my application is very large with lots of views and over 500,000 documents? Would this method remain effective?
Not directly. It's hard to say if switching over to XPages and Java and managed beans will increase the performance in general. My approach isn't dealing with the working data, with the 500,000 or whatever documents. It's just dealing with the configurations. So it's hard to say if it will be an increase of performance. I saw databases with large amounts of documents that are brought to XPages and Java accessing the data and building up lists and stuff, and they were much faster than the Notes ones. So, but it's hard to tell, and it's also hard to answer that in just one or a few sentences. It's another topic, I think.
Okay, and I think also, I think you mentioned it, Oliver, that your configuration documents, you might have a handful of them that are going to be in a view by themselves. So it's not like you're pulling those configuration documents out of the production data views. They're going to have their own views, which
right. You should always divide those configuration stuff from the production data, from your working data, just to speed it up and just to maintain it. Think of different roles of users accessing the configuration, and so even for that you should divide them.
Right, and also a lot of people will do their XPages will be in one application, but the data will be in another. They don't necessarily have to, and it's not necessarily a good idea to put your design in with your documents, especially in the XPages world, as you move away from the notes world.
Yes, good point. Regarding those plans IBM has with XPages and Domino data services on their Bluemix platform, you should think about before migrating a legacy app to XPages from the beginning to divide your data from your design into different NSFs. That would be what I want to do, divide them.
Okay, Oliver, we have a question from Sam. He said, why do we need to use beans instead of objects populated when the session is initialized in a server-side JavaScript, for example? So I think he's saying, why are we using the beans instead of just using like a scoped object that we initialize in the, let's say, before page open or some other event that runs when the XPages is first loaded?
Yes, this is easy to answer. I don't use some of the page events because I always miss them. Because I always forget to code something in there, and if I just want to initialize my my own objects and using that bean method, I cannot forget to initialize them. So you always have to put your init code in a design element in a custom control that is populated on every X page or something. And if you create a new one and you forget to implement that code, then you might run into trouble. So using the bean method, yeah, makes my life easier. So I cannot forget anything.
Okay, thanks, Oliver.
Okay.
Paul, do you have a question?
Yeah, we have a question from David. So on some methods, Oliver, in your environment bean, you use synchronized. What is that?
Did I? I think it was not intended. I just have to look it up. Please give me a second to look it up. Synchronized. Yes. Okay. Yes, the synchronized method. I'm not a Java geek here, but the synchronized method says if I have multiple instances of my bean, they are strictly divided or strictly encapsulated within my own bean object I am dealing with as a user. I think these come in handy when using session beans. So I have to admit that the synchronized modifier is added automatically by Domino Designer. So I did not intend to put it there, but there is of course some meaning behind it, but I cannot tell you exactly why this is added. So maybe you ask a Java guru for that.
Okay, I think that's our last question. At one point, Oliver, I'm sure we didn't really have time to get into the details, but David Leedy reminded us that the session scope you do have to be careful with that is not tied to the user login, that is related to the browser. And there's
Yes.
a number of discussions on that, but just so everyone's aware that session scope does not equal the user login. It is the session for the browser and has
Right.
nothing to do with the user login. So just
right.
to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Yes, it's not the node session, it's the HTTP session in this case. So opening another browser window with the same credentials opens up another HTTP session, even for the same user, and both beans are separated. Yes, that's true.
Okay, I think we were pretty much out of time, and just kind of conclude with someone asked about how do they start learning Bluemix, and that's what we're covering next month. So everyone, we'll look forward to seeing you next month when we host some of the IBM team who will be talking about Domino features, including Bluemix. And I'd like to thank you, Oliver, so much for presenting today. Great presentation, a lot of interesting things to consider as people start architecting their apps as they move from Notes to XPages. And so, everyone, I wish you a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you too.